Picture this. You're celebrating your 80th birthday surrounded by loved ones when suddenly you realize your body has been keeping secrets from you. Major biological shifts have been happening beneath the surface, and most people have absolutely no idea they're coming. Here's the shocking truth that researchers discovered after studying over 10,000 adults in their 9th decade of life. Your body doesn't just age gradually after 80. It triggers 5 specific biological changes that affect every single person who reaches this milestone. Scientists at the National Institute on Aging found that these changes accelerate at rates up to 300% faster than they did in your 70s. The most alarming part? The number one change on our list affects 94% of people over 80 and directly impacts your independence and quality of life in ways that might surprise you. Recent studies from Johns Hopkins revealed that this particular shift can be managed and even partially reversed if you know what to do. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. You can find all research and medical studies in the description below if you'd like to dive deeper after watching. Before we begin, tell us in the comments now your age and where you're watching us from. We're reading and replying to every single comment, so drop your comments below. Now let's get started. Number 5. Your sleep architecture completely restructures. Your sleep patterns undergo a dramatic transformation once you cross 80 that goes far beyond just sleeping lighter or waking up more often. What actually happens is your brain's ability to produce deep restorative sleep decreases by roughly 60% compared to your younger years. A comprehensive study published in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine tracked 2,400 adults over 80 and found that their deep sleep stages dropped to an average of just 12 minutes per night, compared to 90 minutes in people under 60. This isn't just about feeling tired. Deep sleep is when your brain clears out toxic proteins and your body repairs cellular damage. When you lose this critical sleep phase, your cognitive function takes a hit and your physical recovery slows down dramatically. The restructuring happens because your circadian rhythm weakens significantly after 80. Your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is the tiny cluster of cells in your brain that controls your internal clock, produces less melatonin and responds less effectively to light cues. Research from Stanford University showed that people over 80 experience circadian rhythm disruptions that cause them to feel sleepy around 7 p.m. and wake up around 4 a.m. whether they want to or not. This shift isn't optional, and it happens to almost everyone. The key is working with your new sleep architecture instead of fighting against it. Start by exposing yourself to bright natural light for at least 30 minutes every morning between 8 and 10 a.m. This helps anchor your weakened circadian rhythm. Keep your bedroom completely dark and cool around 65 degrees Fahrenheit because your body's temperature regulation becomes less efficient after 80. Avoid caffeine after noon because your liver processes it 40% slower than it used to. Consider taking a short 20-minute nap in the early afternoon, which research shows can compensate for lost nighttime sleep without disrupting your evening rest. Studies from the Mayo Clinic found that adults over 80 who followed these protocols increased their total quality sleep time by 47 minutes per night and reported feeling significantly more alert during daytime hours. Now let's move to something even more critical for your daily functioning. Number 4. Your gut microbiome undergoes massive population shifts. The ecosystem of bacteria living in your digestive system experiences radical changes after you turn 80 that affect everything from your immune system to your brain function. Scientists at University College Cork analyzed stool samples from 600 people over 80 and discovered that beneficial bacteria species decreased by an average of 40%, while inflammatory bacteria increased by 35%. This shift isn't subtle. Your gut loses key species like bifidobacterium, which helps digest fiber and produce vitamins, while gaining more proteobacteria, which trigger chronic inflammation throughout your body. A groundbreaking study in the journal Nature Aging found that this microbial imbalance directly correlates with increased frailty scores and higher rates of infection in people over 80. The mechanism behind this change involves your stomach producing less acid as you age and your intestinal lining becoming more permeable. After 80, your gut barrier weakens significantly, allowing bacteria and toxins to leak into your bloodstream more easily. This triggers a constant low-grade inflammatory response that researchers call inflammaging. The Canadian longitudinal study on aging tracked 1,800 adults and found that those over 80 with the poorest gut diversity had 3 times higher rates of hospitalizations and 2.5 times more difficulty with daily activities compared to those with healthier microbiomes. Your nutritional absorption also suffers because the beneficial bacteria that help break down and synthesize nutrients are declining rapidly. Rebuilding your gut microbiome after 80 requires a targeted approach. Eat at least 30 different plant foods per week because diversity of plant fiber feeds diverse bacteria species. Include fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi daily as they introduce live beneficial bacteria directly into your system. Research from King's College London showed that people over 80 who ate fermented foods daily for 12 weeks increased their beneficial bacteria counts by 28%. Avoid unnecessary antibiotics when possible because they wipe out both good and bad bacteria indiscriminately. Take a high-quality probiotic supplement containing at least 10 billion CFUs with multiple strains, specifically Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium species. Stay well hydrated with at least 8 glasses of water daily because your intestinal lining needs adequate moisture to function properly. A clinical trial published in Gut Microbes found that older adults who combined these strategies showed measurable improvements in immune markers and reported 40% fewer digestive complaints within 16 weeks. Something even more physically limiting comes next. Number 3. Your muscle protein synthesis rate drops dramatically. After 80, your muscles lose their ability to rebuild themselves efficiently in a process that scientists call anabolic resistance. When you eat protein, your body normally breaks it down into amino acids and uses them to repair and build muscle tissue. But research from the University of Nottingham revealed that people over 80 need 60% more protein than younger adults to trigger the same muscle-building response. The study measured muscle protein synthesis rates in 150 adults over 80 and found they synthesized new muscle protein at rates 55% slower than adults in their 50s, even when consuming identical amounts of protein. This creates a vicious cycle where you're constantly breaking down more muscle than you're building back up. The biological reason involves your muscles becoming resistant to anabolic signals from amino acids and insulin. Your muscle cells develop fewer receptors for these growth signals, and the ones that remain don't respond as strongly. A landmark study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition tracked muscle loss rates in 3,200 people over 80 and discovered they lost an average of 3% of their total muscle mass per year, compared to 1% per year in their 60s. This accelerated loss directly impacts your ability to climb stairs, carry groceries, get up from chairs, and maintain your balance. Loss of muscle mass, called sarcopenia, affects roughly 50% of people over 80 according to data from the European Working Group on Sarcopenia. The consequences extend beyond weakness because muscle tissue plays crucial roles in blood sugar regulation, immune function, and metabolic health. Combating anabolic resistance requires strategic protein timing and resistance exercise. Consume at least 30 grams of high-quality protein at each meal, rather than spreading smaller amounts throughout the day because research shows you need this threshold to overcome anabolic resistance. Include leucine-rich foods like eggs, dairy, fish, and poultry because leucine is the amino acid that triggers muscle protein synthesis most effectively. A study from McMaster University found that adults over 80 who consumed 40 grams of protein within 2 hours after resistance exercise increased their muscle protein synthesis rates by 49% compared to those who waited longer or ate less protein. Engage in resistance training at least twice per week focusing on major muscle groups because the mechanical stress on muscles amplifies their response to dietary protein. Even light resistance with bands or bodyweight exercises creates enough stimulus to counteract anabolic resistance. Consider supplementing with 3 grams of leucine before meals if you struggle to eat enough protein-rich foods. Research published in Clinical Nutrition showed that older adults who combined adequate protein intake with regular resistance training maintained or even gained muscle mass over 24 weeks, while control groups lost an average of 4% of their muscle tissue. Here's where things get even more concerning for your independence. Number 2. Your balance control system deteriorates across 3 critical areas. Your ability to maintain balance relies on 3 interconnected systems, and all 3 decline significantly after 80 in ways that compound each other. The first system is your vestibular apparatus in your inner ear, which detects head position and movement. Studies from Johns Hopkins found that vestibular function declines by approximately 40% per decade after age 70, with the sharpest drops occurring after 80. The second system involves proprioception, which is your body's ability to sense where your limbs are in space without looking at them. Proprioceptive nerve endings in your joints and muscles decrease in number and sensitivity, causing a 35% reduction in spatial awareness by age 80 according to research in Age and Aging Journal. The third system is visual processing, and your ability to use vision for balance decreases because you need more light to see clearly and your depth perception weakens significantly. When these 3 systems all decline simultaneously, your brain struggles to integrate the conflicting or weak signals it receives. A comprehensive study tracking 4,100 adults over 80 found that 75% experienced at least 1 fall per year and 25% fell multiple times, with falls being the leading cause of injury-related deaths in this age group. The deterioration isn't just about falling, though. It affects your confidence and willingness to move around freely. Research in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society showed that fear of falling caused 60% of adults over 80 to restrict their physical activities, which ironically accelerates balance decline even further. Your reaction time also slows by roughly 25% after 80, which means even if you feel yourself losing balance, you can't correct quickly enough to prevent a fall. Rebuilding balance requires training all 3 systems simultaneously with progressive challenge. Practice standing on 1 foot for 30 seconds while holding a counter, then gradually reduce hand support as you improve, because this forces your vestibular and proprioceptive systems to work harder. Walk heel to toe in a straight line for 20 steps daily, which research shows improves vestibular function and spatial awareness. Tai Chi has emerged as one of the most effective interventions, with a meta-analysis of 18 studies showing that adults over 80 who practice Tai Chi 3 times weekly reduced their fall risk by 43% over 6 months. The slow, controlled movements retrain all 3 balance systems simultaneously. Ensure adequate lighting throughout your home with night lights in hallways and bathrooms, because visual compensation becomes more critical when other systems weaken. Remove tripping hazards like loose rugs and clutter, because even minor obstacles become dangerous when your balance systems can't react quickly. Consider vision therapy exercises like tracking moving objects with your eyes while keeping your head still, because this maintains the connection between visual and vestibular systems. A clinical trial published in JAMA found that multifaceted balance training programs reduce serious fall-related injuries by 61% in adults over 80 who participated for at least 12 weeks. And now for the most critical change that affects nearly everyone. Number 1. Your cardiovascular reserve capacity drastically diminishes. This is the big one that impacts virtually every aspect of your life after 80. Your heart's ability to increase its output during physical or emotional stress drops by approximately 70% compared to your peak capacity in your 30s. Research from the Framingham Heart Study examined cardiovascular function in 2,000 800 adults over 80 and found their maximum heart rate during exercise averaged just 145 beats per minute compared to 190 in younger adults. More importantly, their cardiac output, which is the volume of blood the heart pumps per minute, increased by only 30% during exertion, compared to 300% increases in younger hearts. This means your cardiovascular system has almost no reserve left for handling additional demands. The biological mechanisms involve your heart muscle becoming stiffer and less elastic after decades of contraction. Your left ventricle, which pumps oxygenated blood to your body, develops thicker walls that don't relax as well between beats. This condition, called diastolic dysfunction, affects 94% of people over 80 according to echocardiography studies published in Circulation. Your blood vessels also stiffen significantly as elastic fibers break down and get replaced with rigid collagen. Arterial stiffness increases by 200% to 300% after age 80, forcing your heart to work much harder to push blood through resistant vessels. A landmark study in the European Heart Journal tracked 5,400 adults over 80 and discovered that reduced cardiovascular reserve was the single strongest predictor of mortality and loss of independence over a 5-year period, even stronger than cancer or dementia risk. The loss of cardiovascular reserve manifests in everyday situations that younger people take for granted. Climbing a flight of stairs leaves you breathless because your heart can't increase output sufficiently to meet your muscles' oxygen demands. You feel exhausted after walking through a grocery store because your cardiovascular system operates near maximum capacity, even during mild activities. Emotional stress triggers disproportionate physical symptoms like rapid heartbeat and shortness of breath because your system has no buffer to handle the adrenaline surge. Research in the Journal of Applied Physiology showed that simple activities like dressing yourself or preparing meals require 60% to 70% of maximum cardiovascular capacity in adults over 80 compared to just 20% in middle-aged adults. Preserving and partially restoring cardiovascular reserve requires consistent moderate exercise and specific lifestyle modifications. Engage in aerobic activity for at least 150 minutes weekly at intensities that elevate your heart rate to 60% to 70% of maximum, which for most people over 80 means brisk walking or cycling. A randomized controlled trial involving 800 adults over 80 found that those who maintained regular aerobic exercise improved their cardiovascular reserve by 18% over 1 year, while sedentary controls declined by 12%. The key is consistency because missing even 1 week of activity causes measurable decreases in cardiovascular capacity. Include interval training where you alternate between higher and lowered intensities, because this specifically trains your heart to respond more effectively to changing demands. Research from the Mayo Clinic showed that high-intensity interval training improved cardiac output by 25% in adults over 80 when performed twice weekly for 12 weeks. Monitor your blood pressure closely because hypertension forces your already stiff arteries to work even harder. Keep systolic pressure below 130 through medication if necessary because each 10-point reduction in systolic pressure decreases cardiovascular strain significantly. Stay well hydrated because blood volume decreases with dehydration, making your heart pump less efficiently. Avoid excessive salt intake, which promotes fluid retention and increases blood pressure, but don't eliminate salt completely because you need adequate sodium for proper circulation. Manage stress through meditation, breathing exercises, or enjoyable activities because chronic stress hormones damage blood vessels and reduce cardiovascular reserve over time. A comprehensive study in Aging Cell found that adults over 80 who combined regular exercise with stress management and blood pressure control maintained cardiovascular function equivalent to people 10 years younger. So there you have it. 5 biological changes that happen after 80 whether you're ready for them or not. The good news is that understanding these changes empowers you to take specific actions that can minimize their impact and preserve your independence for years to come. Remember that while aging is inevitable, how you age is largely within your control through daily choices about movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress management. These aren't just minor lifestyle tweaks, but powerful interventions backed by solid science that can genuinely improve your quality of life in your 9th decade and beyond. If you found this information valuable, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss crucial health information that could make a real difference in your life or the life of someone you love. Share this video with family members or friends who are approaching or have passed this milestone, because knowledge truly is power when it comes to healthy aging. And share with us your experiences and opinions in the comments below. We love to hear them. Thanks for watching.